A teenager just ran 44.10 seconds in the 400 meters against fully grown professional men. And by the time it was over, people who have spent their entire lives around this event were sitting there, struggling to explain what they just watched. We will get into that moment properly, but first you need to understand who this kid actually is, because the number alone is unbelievable. But the story of how he almost got buried before he ever reached that track is the part almost nobody talks about. Chesapeake, Virginia, a regular town, except nothing about this family was actually regular once you look closer. His mom, Monique, was a Hall of Fame level soccer and basketball player back in her college days. His dad, Roy, played football at the Naval Academy. His older sister runs Division I track at James Madison University. Speed was already sitting in the bloodline, but having athletic parents does not automatically make a kid special. Plenty of children with athletic genes go absolutely nowhere with it. What actually made Quincy Wilson different was a decision his family made while he was still young, one most families would never even consider. They packed up their entire life and moved from Chesapeake all the way to Potomac, Maryland, so he could attend bully school and train under a coach named Joe Lee. Think about what that really means. His own parents looked at a kid who had not proven a single thing yet at the senior level and decided to uproot everything they had built, betting completely on potential. That is an enormous amount of faith to place on a young teenager, and it very easily could have crushed him before any of it paid off. At 14 years old, still in middle school, Quincy breaks a national under-14 record in the 400 meters that had stood untouched for 30 straight years. Now, here's the honest part about youth records. They get broken all the time by kids who look completely unstoppable at 14 or 15 and then quietly disappear a few years later because the body did not develop the way everyone hoped, or the pressure caught up with them, or life simply pulled them somewhere else. So the serious people around the sport were impressed, but they were not fully convinced. Show us what you do against real competition. Show us when it actually counts. That skepticism was fair and honestly healthy. This is exactly where Joe Lee becomes the quiet hero of this entire story. In a sport where young athletes get over-raced, overtrained, and burned out long before they ever reach their prime, Joe Lee refuses to rush him. He builds the seasons carefully, controls the schedule, decides exactly when Quincy competes and when he rests, and trusts a long, patient plan, even when short-term results dip and outside noise starts asking questions. That kind of patience never makes headlines, but it is the entire reason everything that comes later becomes possible at all. Here is a small detail that tells you everything about who this kid really is underneath all the attention. After his first Olympic race in Paris, with his name suddenly trending everywhere, a reporter asked him how he planned to celebrate. He said he wanted to go home and play Call of Duty with his friends. Not a sponsored dinner, not a media tour, just Call of Duty with his friends like any other teenager. That right there is who Quincy Wilson actually is. A kid who happened to become an Olympic champion. At Paris 2024, at just 16 years old, he gets selected for Team USA's 4x400 relay pool, becoming the youngest male track and field Olympian in American history. And that is across 128 years of American men competing at the Olympics with nobody ever younger than him. He runs the opening leg in the preliminary heat, visibly nervous, clocking 47.27. Not his personal best, but enough to help the team qualify. In the final, with Wilson not even part of the running order, the rest of the team goes on to win gold. Quincy Wilson becomes an Olympic gold medalist at 16 years old, and he has not even finished high school yet. Sit with that for a second. A kid sitting in a classroom doing homework with an Olympic gold medal somewhere in his house. Every meet he enters after that sells out. Every time his name appears on a start list, people show up specifically to watch him, and the expectations shoot from high to completely unreasonable almost overnight. Then, 2025 happens, and it goes wrong fast. In January, at the Virginia Showcase, he lines up in the 500 meters fully expected to win, and a fellow high schooler beats him by 2 full seconds. The internet reacts exactly the way the internet always reacts. People who were calling him the future of American sprinting just months earlier are suddenly questioning whether any of it was ever real. Then the outdoor season starts, and it gets worse. He loses at the Florida Relays, loses at other meets, and fails to qualify for the 2025 World Championships entirely. An actual Olympian even goes public, saying Quincy needs a break, that people are watching a burnout happen in real time. Picture what that genuinely feels like as a human being. Still a teenager, already an Olympic gold medalist, trying to finish a normal senior year of high school, while the entire internet debates whether you are already finished. Most people crack under that kind of public weight. Most people panic and overhaul everything trying to fix what feels broken. Quincy Wilson did the complete opposite. He went back to basics, went back to Joe Lee, went back to the track, and stayed patient through every bit of noise. I have to say, that response alone tells you more about his actual ceiling than any stopwatch ever could. Then, Memphis happens. July 13th, the Ed Murphy Classic in Memphis, Tennessee. This is not a junior meet. This is a real professional field. And Bryce Deadman is standing in that lineup, a legitimate professional 400-meter runner with years at the top level behind him. Wilson starts strong, goes out hard through the first 200, stays completely controlled through the turn, and then opens up entirely down the final straight. 44.10 seconds. The stadium loses its mind completely. Let me put that number exactly where it belongs. 44.10 is the fastest any under-18 athlete has ever run the 400 meters in the entire history of the event, anywhere on Earth. No 17-year-old has ever run faster. It is also the second fastest time ever recorded by any under-20 athlete in history, and it stood as the fourth fastest time run by anyone in the entire world that year, across every single age group, professionals fully included. He beat Bryce Deadman outright. He beat every professional in that race, from the front, completely in control, like the outcome was never even in doubt. Michael Johnson, a man who held the 400-meter world record for years and spent his entire career explaining exactly why this event breaks people down, watched that run happen and had to call it exactly what it was: a generational talent, the kind that shows up once a decade if the sport is lucky. What happened right after tells you just as much. After the record, after the stadium erupted, after his coach reportedly popped champagne on the infield, even though the rules mean a 17-year-old legally cannot drink it, Quincy posted 3 words on his Instagram story. On to the next one. No victory speech, no call-outs, no long emotional caption about doubters and comebacks. 3 words, and straight back to work. That is the entire person right there. The same kid whose family moved states for him. The same kid who went home from the Olympics to play Call of Duty. The same kid who got beaten publicly for months and never once panicked or changed the plan. And the part that should genuinely worry everyone else in this event is that Quincy Wilson is still only a teenager, nowhere near his actual physical prime. Elite 400-meter runners typically peak in their mid to late 20s, which means he still has a full decade of development sitting ahead of him. The real world record right now sits at 43.03 seconds, set by Wade Van Niekerk at the 2016 Rio Olympics, breaking Michael Johnson's own 43.18 that had stood since 1999. Quincy is already sitting at 44.10 as a 17-year-old. Run that math forward and think seriously about what this could look like at 24 or 25, fully matured physically, racing on the biggest stages with real experience behind him. Los Angeles 2028 sits right around the corner too. A home Olympics, American soil, the entire country watching a kid who was already an Olympic champion at 16 and a world record adjacent name at 17. I will say this plainly because it deserves saying. none of this is happening in isolation either. This has genuinely been one of the wildest stretches track and field has ever seen, with senior world records and under 20 world records falling across the board, from Mondo Duplantis clearing yet another pole vault mark, to Caleb McRae taking down the indoor 400, to Josh Hoey ending an 800-meter record that had survived since 1997. Other teenagers like Sam Ruth out of New Zealand and Cooper Lutkenhouse here in the States have also been closing the gap on grown professionals in ways nobody expected this soon. Quincy Wilson is not some isolated freak occurrence. He is part of an actual historic shift happening in this sport right now, where teenagers are no longer just promising. They are genuinely beating grown adults who have trained their entire lives for exactly this. On top of everything else, this kid is now a 4-time New Balance Indoor Nationals champion, something almost nobody manages across 4 full years of high school. He ran 46.67 as a freshman, dropped to 45.76 as a sophomore, which doubled as a new national high school record, held on for 45.71 as a junior by just 0.13 seconds, and then, as a senior, won the tightest final of his entire career, edging out Jaden DeLeon by a single hundredth of a second at 45.37. He has since signed a full NIL deal with New Balance, complete with sponsorship trips and photo shoots, and the kind of professional treatment most athletes never see until years into an actual career. And he is still a teenager living through all of it. So bring it all the way back to where we started, because when times start closing in on numbers that used to belong only to legends, the entire sport gets forced to recalibrate what it thought was possible, whether anyone says it out loud or not. Los Angeles 2028 is the real target now. Quincy Wilson at 20 years old, home crowd, everything on the line. And I genuinely believe this is only the beginning of what this kid ends up doing to that record book. Drop your prediction below. I read every single one. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and hit the bell for more sprint stories, training tips, and track highlights.